Okay, so hopefully you're able to see my slides. I'm sure somebody in the team will shout and let me know if you're not able to. I've got my eye on Teams as well, my colleagues, if there's any problems. So let's begin. So this is a Rogo demonstration webinar for you for the exams coming up. This will be carried out before each of the sessions and is the normal webinars that we run for you. So you should all have your cameras switched off, your microphones muted, but we do have the chat function and the Q&A function available for you. So if there are any questions, please do ask them in either of those two windows. I'm not sure which of them is available to you, but one of them definitely should be. My colleagues will respond to those as we progress through, and if there's any that they can't respond to, then I will pick those up throughout the session. So just for getting started purposes, and hopefully you are and have been practicing prior to your exam next week on our practice site or on our exam site with the specimen paper, you will need an operating system of Windows 7 or later. If you're using a Mac, you'll need to have Mavericks 9.9 or later. The two supported internet browsers are Chrome or Edge. So you need to be using Chrome or Edge. You'll need a processor that's 2 gig or faster, and our recommended Wi-Fi speed is at least 5 megs something something. I don't know what that means, but it's 5 something something. Hopefully someone more technical than me will understand that. If you're unsure, you can do a speed test, and there's a website there for you that you can use, although there are others available. We do advise for candidates to use a wired connection rather than a Wi-Fi connection to their internet. Internet obviously can be slightly unpredictable, so if you can use a wired connection rather than a Wi-Fi connection. I'm sat here now wired in. You can probably see my router just in the background potentially, because I'm next to it. So we do recommend that. You can get one of those cables on Amazon. They're not very expensive, and you can get really quite long ones if your router is a bit far away. But we do recommend that because it's just a bit more stable. Please make sure that any devices that could use up bandwidth are switched off. So make sure that mobile phones and Kindles and gaming devices, Netflix, Fire Sticks, all of those other things are switched off. If you've got other people in the property with you when you're sitting your exam, if you're sitting it at home, please can they be aware that you're sitting an exam, get them not to be downloading stuff, not to be gaming, not to be doing all of those things. Before your exam starts, please can you make sure that you've logged out of all programs on your device. That does include, if you're using a work laptop, please make sure you're logged out of your work email, your work Teams, make sure all notifications are switched off. It is considered academic misconduct if you're getting Teams messages throughout your examination. So you should have no other windows open, no other web browser windows, no other programs open on your computer apart from your examination. And please be advised, when you're being remotely invigilated, your screen's being recorded, and those recordings are looked at by the invigilator, but also myself and the team. Can you make sure your device is not due to do any system or security updates? So make sure it's all completely up to date. And please, can you also make sure that you've got your laptops, if you're using a laptop, plugged in? Please don't rely on a laptop battery, because you won't necessarily have notification that the battery is going to run out or have the time to go and get a cable. Okay, so please make sure you're plugged in. Now, there are 2 Rogo sites. Now, hopefully you're familiar with both of these sites already, but there are 2 Rogo sites. There is the practice test site and the live exam site. and the URLs for those two sites are listed here. You can tell the difference between them because one is a pink site, which is the practice site, and you need to be in the purple site to do your exams. Please make sure you've logged into your exam site in advance of the exam. Please make sure you do your technical test. The logins and passwords for these two sites can be different. So you may have changed your password on one and not on the other and things like that. So please make sure you're familiar and you're able to log in and you are in the right site. You will have had added to your system already your technical tests. So you have the opportunity to do 3 technical tests. You don't need to do all 3 of those technical tests. As long as one of those technical tests is successful, that should be sufficient. However, if there are any system updates between doing your technical test and the exam, we'd recommend that you did a second technical test. So please make sure you do your technical test. If you haven't done your technical test and you were to put in something like special considerations after the exam, if something goes wrong, then the examination panel will automatically reject special considerations if you've not done your technical test and they relate to technical issues. So please do make sure you've done your technical test. You'll need to follow the on-screen instructions to do that, which will mean that you'll need to make sure that you are sharing your screen, that you've got access to the camera and the webcam. We get a lot of questions about students not using laptop screens. You can have a screen attached to your laptop, but your laptop will need to be closed down. So you'll need to be able to close the lid. So if you're relying on the webcam on your laptop and you'd prefer to use a bigger screen, a bigger separate screen, then you can do that, but you'll need a USB camera on the top of your second screen because your laptop will need to be closed. Okay, so you will need to check the settings to make sure that if you close your laptop that it doesn't close down on the other screen. So sometimes when you close the laptop it puts it into sleep mode, so you'll need to check your settings to make sure that that will work. But you will need to share your webcam and your microphone. So you cannot use 2 screens, you can only use one, but we are allowing you to have a monitor using your laptop as long as the laptop lid can be shut because you've got a separate camera sitting on top of your monitor. You'll need to share your screen and then it will ask you to put yourself in the picture to make sure that we can see you properly. It will ask you to present your identification, so please make sure you've got valid and up-to-date photographic identification. It will check your camera and it will give you some final instructions here to make sure that everything's been okay during your technical test. If you update or change your device before you take your exam, it's essential that you retake your technical test. Okay, so anything changes with your device, any additional technology, any separate webcams, any updates, anything like that, please do your technical test again. And similarly, you need to do your technical test in the location that you're going to be sitting your exam. So please make sure you do your technical test in that location. If you do your technical test at home and then you go into the office to sit your exam, the firewalls in your office on your Wi-Fi may stop your equipment working properly. So please make sure you sit your technical test in advance and in the same location with the same equipment, and that no updates have been made before your exam. You'll need to schedule your exam if you haven't done so already. So you'll need to do that 4 calendar days prior to your examination. So if your exam is next Monday, you need to make sure you schedule your exam really today. Okay, so that needs to be done today. You'll just about be able to get that in, hopefully. To schedule your exam, you'll go through, you'll see this in your Rogo account. To schedule your exam, it will ask you to do that. So you need to make sure that this is all up to date. You need to select remote invigilation. You are not allowed to select local invigilation unless you are sitting with one of our international ATPs, or you have extenuating circumstances and reasonable adjustments have been agreed for local. So you need to sit your exam using remote. You'll see the date and then you select the session in which you're going to sit with the start time. You can also reschedule your exam. So if you schedule it for 9 o'clock and you need to change it to 10, you can do that. But those similar deadlines are in place. You have to do it 4 calendar days prior to your exam. Okay, so you can't change it the day before. So you do need to do that in advance. You have a specimen test that you're able to sit. And you've got unlimited attempts at that. So you should see that on your Rogo under the course module section. Please make sure you sit your specimen test. So the specimen test will replicate the exam. It's not there for you to necessarily practice in terms of your learning. It's more set up to make sure that you can practice how to use the system and navigate the system correctly to sit your exam. So please make sure you undertake that specimen test in advance of your exam. So you're only allowed one monitor to sit your exam, but as I've said, if you're using a laptop, you can do it on a laptop as long as it's shut and there is a USB on your monitor. You need to make sure your room is well lit. You cannot have headphones. Okay, you cannot have anything in your ears. You cannot have headphones. You cannot have earbuds. You cannot have anything to block out sound even in your ears because they could be headphones. So headphones are not permitted. You need to make sure all your tabs are closed apart from the one that you're using for your exam. Make sure that everything is switched off. So emailing, messages in Teams, Zoom is strictly forbidden. We will be reviewing your exams for potential malpractice. You cannot use a secondary device. So please don't have a secondary device available. So make sure your mobile phones are out the way. Make sure that you're not having, there's no laptops, there's no iPads, there's nothing else available. You'd be surprised what we've picked up over the past few sittings where students think that they can get away with accessing a second device in their exam. Please make sure you don't have anything and you're not using anything. The invigilators are trained to pick up on all sorts of things such as eye movement, etc., where you might think that your secondary device isn't being viewed, but it is clear that you're using a secondary device because of the way that you're moving and looking around. You can't eat, smoke or vape during your examination, but you are allowed water in your exam. If for any reason that you do need to eat, if you're diabetic, for example, please reach out to the exams team to make sure that they're aware of that. And you should really have reasonable adjustments in place for that. Make sure you log in 15 minutes before the start of your exam. Your invigilator will allow you into the virtual exam room, but you won't be able to necessarily start your exam. The invigilator will ask you to do a 360 sweep of the room. So please make sure you're able to do that. So you need to make sure that the laptop is movable, or if you've got a camera on top of the monitor, you're able to pick that up and move that around. Please don't forget your ID. Make sure that it's a valid passport, ID, driving license, something like that. Toilet breaks should be avoided if possible, just because of the time it takes up in your exam, and obviously the exams are quite time pressured. But if you do need to go to the toilet, you're allowed to do that, but the assessment time will not be paused. If at any point you do need to contact the invigilator using the chat box, you are able to do that. If you get disconnected, you'll be needing to log back in. You'll be asked to recheck your ID. You will potentially lose some time during this process. If it's an elongated length of time, then you can apply for special considerations if it happens on multiple occasions. And please make sure you've taken your technical test. The system saves work every 30 seconds. Please be advised, if you're kicked out of the system and you get back in within a minute or so, that's not going to be considered disruption. If you're in an examination hall and, someone raised their hand and asked a question in front of you, you'd be disrupted. Or if 3 or 4 people all got up to leave the exam at the same time or go to the bathroom, these sorts of disruptions would happen in exam centres. as well as they do on remote invigilation. So, you can apply for special considerations, but please be minded that it needs to be for a period of time that you've been kicked out, and that, you have done your technical test, or it's happened on more than one occasion. What are you allowed in the exam? You're allowed a calculator. It needs to be a physical calculator. You cannot use a phone, a tablet, a watch, etc. But the system does have a calculator that you're able to use, and I'll show you that in a minute. You're allowed 4 clean sheets of blank paper, pen, pencil, and a rubber. The results will be released on the 18th of July. So these can be accessed on MySitFA and Rogo on results day. So good luck with that. And that's the end of the first part of the presentation. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a second, and just check that the team have managed all of the Q&As. So all of the questions that we've got have been answered so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Rogo, and I am going to show you an exam. So I just need to share my screen again. Brilliant. That should now be sharing. Someone from my team will shout at me if you are unable to see that. I'm just checking. Okay, so when you log in, under the courses and modules, you'll see the exams that you'll need to sit, okay? And you will press the start button of those exams. You'll get a screen that looks like this. So it will look slightly different than this because this is the practice, one of the practice tests, but it will tell you what's in the examination, what you need to do. It will go through all of the functionality, and at the bottom you will be agreeing to our academic regulations and all of the things that sit within those. So when you go in and start the exam, you are going to be agreeing to those regulations and our academic regulations. So this is what the screen will look like. You'll see here that it tells you what question you're on. It tells you how many marks the question is worth. It tells you how long you've got remaining and how many questions in the exam in its entirety. So this exam, we're on question 1. This is worth 5 marks. This is question 1 of 12, and you've got 2 hours and 59 minutes remaining. You will see down here in the bottom left that there is a purple button. This is the exam exhibit. So this exhibit is a PDF exhibit, and this is a PSFR one. So these are the PSFR formulas that will be given to you in the exam. On here, you can see that there are 2 tabs, and this second tab gives you all of the pro formas. Okay, so that button down at the bottom, that stays there with you for the entirety of your exam. That's your exam exhibit. You will also potentially have a question level exhibit. This question doesn't have one. We'll find one in a minute that does, and that will appear at the top. So if it's at the top up here, then it relates just to that question. If it's down here, that's for the whole exam and to help you things like formulas and the pro formas. You'll also see down here a number of other buttons. So you've got that calculator that you're able to use and you're able to move around. You've got a reading ruler, which might be useful for you if you're reading something like business reporting or PSFR later on with the big financial statements to make sure you're picking up the right number across the column. You have a notepad that you're able to use. So you might use this for essay plans and things like that to make notes for reminders. And you've got a spreadsheet working tool that you're able to use as well. This has got lots of Excel functionality within it. Okay, so again with this you can make it bigger and smaller. You've got the main here where you're able to do things similar to Excel, wrap text, merge cells, use formulas, etc., insert tables, use auto sum and other formulas and things like that. And you've also are able to flag a question. So if you were unsure about this, you're able to flag it. This is just a drag and drop question, so true, false. Sorry, a drop down question, so true, false answers. You've got a navigation button which shows you all of your paper and it shows you what you flagged. You're able to jump between the questions. So a similar question here, which is multiple choice style question. You'll see here that this has got a purple button up here, which is your question level exhibit. So that means that this information relates to being able to answer these questions. Okay, so we've got one there and we've got one there. This is the one that I showed you earlier that sits with for the entirety of your exam. This one wasn't there previously. It wasn't there because it just relates to this question. You'll see a number of different question types. So these are multiple choice style. You can see that I'm on question 4. You can see how long I've got left. You can see how many marks are available. This is a slightly more advanced question. Again, it's a 5-mark question that you're asked to fill in that table. You're asked about the debits and the credits. This is a written answer question. So 5-mark compare and contrast objectives of public services and public sector organisations. So in here, you would type here, okay? You have got similar functionality that you'd find in a Word where you can move things around, you can format things, you can highlight things, you can have a numbered table if you wanted to. If I was to open up my notepad, you'll see that Anna was typing. So what I typed in my notepad right at the beginning of the exam is still there. So that notepad stays with you for the entirety of your exam. And similarly, if I open up my spreadsheet, you can see that the numbers that I inserted was still there. Another written question. So this is a spreadsheet style question. So if you're sitting the public sector financial reporting and the business reporting question, okay, you will have a question that looks like this. You've got quite a lot of information in the question. It's presented to you in 2 ways. It's presented to you here, and it's also presented to you in the question level exhibit attachment. And then you have got a spreadsheet to enter your answer. So you've got this spreadsheet here, which is your working spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet working is available to all candidates for all exams. This is not marked, okay? So anything you put in here, you will need to copy and paste into your answer. Okay, so you can see there that I've copied 2 + 2 = 4. That was in my spreadsheet. Okay, so for anything in this spreadsheet to be marked, you need to make sure it's pasted into your answer box. This is a spreadsheet style question. So this is where we have given you the template for this exam for PSFR, and it's already entered into a spreadsheet for you. So you're able to put your workings here, and then you're able to put your answers here. And you're also able to use functionality to auto sum, etc., etc. You're able to use formulas to add, take away, etc. on the spreadsheet. So you have a spreadsheet to answer. So we appreciate that the spreadsheet answer box is down here at the bottom. So that's why we presented the information to you in the tabular format at the top, if that's easier for you to use, or we've also given it to you in the PDF. Okay, so you're able to move that PDF down, move it across, put it up there. So you've got it next to you and then enter here, but you've also got it slightly bigger there. In addition, as I've said, you've got this question level, this paper level exhibit, which has got your formulas in it as well. Okay, so there's quite a lot on the screen for you to navigate for some of these questions. So for some of these questions, you might have long text, you might have a PDF to review. You might also have a formula sheet or pro formas that you might also want to be able to access. So we do strongly recommend that you practice using the system, using the practice questions that you've got on the pink site, on the practice site, but also practice on the purple site as well on your specimen paper. You've got at least 3 exams on the pink site that you're able to use. Your mock is now also available, or will be if you've sat it, in your practice site. And you've got a specimen paper here that you're able to practice these questions in. So please make sure you're using the system and you're practicing. This is a different style of exam. You can see here that this is a shorter exam type question. These are all 2-mark questions, so these will all be MCQ style questions. But you can see on here, you've got all of the same functionality that you've got. You're able to flag a question if you want to when you navigate. You'll be able to see that flag. You're able to jump around here. So, you know, if you were doing this exam, for example, you know, and you wanted to start with the 15-mark questions rather than start with the 5-mark questions, you're able to do that. You just use that navigation. Just because it's presented to you in that order doesn't mean you need to do it in that order. So please think about, you know, if you were doing a paper-based exam, you'd probably flick the paper and go to the questions or the question that you wanted to start with. So you're able to do that in exactly the same way on here using that navigation. When you navigate or you get to the last question and you press finish, it will come up with the navigation screen and it will tell you what you've not looked at, what you've not seen, what might be incomplete, anything you flagged. You're able to then go back to it, time permitting, or you would finish your exam and that would be the end of it. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'm just going to pop in to any questions. Yes, you can have a pack of tissues on the desk if you suffer from hay fever, things like that. Absolutely. You know, just advise the invigilator that you've got them in advance so that you can show them to them if they want to check that there's nothing written on them, for example. You're not able to confirm that the microphone works on the practice site, so that's not available because we don't have remote invigilation on there. So you will need to do it using the technical test. So if you need to check your system, you'll need to do it on the technical test. Yes, as I've said, you're allowed a calculator and 4 blank pieces of paper, but you're not allowed to use a mobile phone. No mobile phone is available, so please make sure it's a calculator and you're not trying to use a mobile phone as an external calculator. We will send out, or you should have the links to the exams where you have been given. You would have received an email to schedule your exam, so that will be the link to the sites, and I'm sure my colleague can answer that and pop them in the chat for you. Yes, if you want to use a separate monitor, you'll need to close your laptop and have a separate USB camera sitting on top of your monitor. So you are able to do that, but you will need to make sure that it is above. Uh, yes, you can have the Citrix Secure Access open on your laptop, but please be advised this might interfere with the remote invigilation. So please make sure you've done a technical test with that open. Okay, so please make sure you've done a technical test. No, you can use most times of calculators, but it can't be pre-programmable. You can reset your password, Ellen, on Rogo. So when you log in, there's an opportunity to do a password reset. It should be the same, but it would have been set up as your email address that's within my SIPFA. So if you've changed your email address on the practice site, but you've not changed it on the exam site, you may be using two different email addresses on those two different sites, but you are able to press the reset password button and then you'll get a new reset password. Yes, you can have a separate keyboard. That's absolutely fine. A wireless keyboard or one that's connected to your laptop. You can take in your advanced materials. So those of you sitting DSDA or SCS, you can have a printed copy of your advanced materials, but they must be a clean copy. You can't have any notes on there. If you're sitting your exam in your office, you need to be in a separate in an office. You need to be in a separate room to all of your colleagues. So you can't be in a shared office. There can't be anybody around you. So you need to be in a separate office. Um, you'll need to practice with the formulas, copying it across. So you do have the functionality to show formulas and copy the two across, but it won't show the formula if you just copy the answer. So where I'd put 2 plus 2 equals 4, it will only have 2, 2 and 4. It won't show me the workings. So if in doubt and you're copying from the spreadsheet working tool, please make sure you include your workings. If it's a spreadsheet question where it's a spreadsheet which is your answer box, then we will be able to see the formulas. No, it's not okay to not have a camera. So you have to have a webcam. So if you're using a larger monitor, you need to shut your laptop down and you need to get a USB camera that sits on the top. You can get those from Amazon. They're not expensive. So it's just a USB camera, and then you'll need to do your technical test to make sure that it works. The practice site is available to all students that have a course booking. So if you're doing tuition with us, you'll have access to the practice site. You would have got that with your course booking. If you if you don't have a course booking with us, you won't have access to that. You'll only have access to the exam practice site. Okay. In terms of the colleague that doesn't have another laptop, unfortunately, that's for you to sort out. There's nothing we can do about providing equipment for you. We do recommend that you don't use a work laptop because there can be functionality on there that stops things from working. We recommend that you use a personal laptop and that you're not, because there's no firewalls and access issues. We appreciate that not all students are able to do that. But if you are using a work laptop, then you do need to make sure that you check and practice and that the technical test works. If there are any problems, hopefully you're able to contact the invigilator in your exam. If you're not able to get in, then you are able to ring the SITFA number. Myself and my colleagues will be answering the phones in exam week to support. Okay, so I am just making sure that everything's answered. Yeah, USB keyboard and mouse is absolutely fine. The normal SITFA number, it's on our website. So if you go on SITFA's website, you'll find a contact number. If you ring that, there'll be a number for you to press in exam week to get through to the exams team. Okay. Yes, as long as you can demonstrate that everything is switched off. Ideally, you won't be in a room where there's any other IT equipment, because it could be considered that there's potential academic misconduct. So ideally, you won't be in a room with any other computer equipment. Okay. Apparently there's a hand up that I'm not able to see. But if anybody does have any other questions, please can you use the Q&A box to ask it, because I'm not able to answer a question. Yes, a wireless mouse is okay, as is a wireless keyboard. Okay, we're starting to get where the questions have dried up. So if there are no other questions, then I will draw this session to a close. I will stay for a couple of minutes and just see if any questions come in. If they don't, please, and I'll answer them. But if not, just please start logging off. And thank you very much for joining, and good luck in your exams next week. The camera needs to be on top of the screen that you're using so that we're looking at you face on. So it can't be here and you're looking over there all the time. It needs to be looking at you like this. So you can have a USB one that sits on top of a monitor. You would have received an email for the technical tests when they've been added to your account. We'll check that they've been added, Marianne. No, you won't get penalised if you need the bathroom. Just tell the invigilator that's where you're going. If you go back in, you will have 3 technical tests available under courses and modules for you to be able to attempt. Okay, I'm going to draw this to a close now. All the questions have gone. Thanks, everybody.